This is a revision video on Harmonium by Simon Armitage for GCSE. The Farron chapelette was gathering dust in the shadowy porch of Marsden Church, and was due to be bundled off to the skip, or was mine, for a song if I wanted it. Sunlight through stained glass, which day to day could beatify saints and raise the dead, had aged the harmonium's softwood case and yellowed the fingernails of its keys, and one of its notes had lost its tongue, and holes were worn in both the treadles, where the organist's feet in grey woollen socks and leather-soled shoes had pedalled and pedalled. But its hummed harmonics still struck a chord. For 100 years that organ had stood by the chorister's stalls, where father and son, each in their time, had opened their throats like ungilded finches, like high notes had streamed out. Through his own blue cloud of tobacco smog, with smoker's fingers and dotted thumbs, he comes to help me cart it away. And we carry it flat, laid on its back, and he, being him, can't help but say that the next box I'll shoulder through this nave will bear the freight of his own dead weight. And I, being me, then mouth in reply some shallow or sorry phrase or word, too starved of breath to make itself heard. So what's it all about? It's a poem that describes the relationship between the narrator and his father, or a father figure at least, removing an old harmonium from a church. A harmonium is a musical instrument similar to a church organ or a piano. The harmonium's old and dusty, and the reader is reminded that everything ages and dies. The narrator seems uneasy about the father's joke about death, and there's a lack of communication about death, and some people really struggle to talk about it. So the first stanza, Simon Armitage really wants this memory to be realistic. So he names the place and he names the type of harmonium in order to make it more authentic, to make the memory more vivid and more specific. Gathering dust and shadowy porch suggests that no one cares about the instrument or indeed the church. And bundled, they suggest a lack of care. Mine for a song if I wanted it. There's a double meaning here. It could suggest he got it cheaply, but he could also use it for a song because it's a musical instrument. Slang is used throughout this poem to give structural comment, and the poem is written in free verse. And this gives the effect of mimicking human speech, and again makes it seem more realistic. The sunlight which ages the humans and their skin has also aged the harmonium through the stained glass of the church. And you have the personification of the harmonium in this stanza, so making it seem as if it's a human. And this then makes the connection between the harmonium and the father later in the poem. So the fingernails of its keys and the notes had lost its tongue. It's as if it's got body parts, and these are aging as if a human would age. The harmonium has also been overused, it's got holes in, and it's been pedalled and pedalled. And the repetition of pedalled with the and in the middle emphasises that overuse and emphasises how long the harmonium has been serving the church and how long it has been used. And hummed harmonics. This is onomatopoeia and alliteration that creates soft sounds, and it mimics the music that the harmonium would create. In addition, more musical imagery, struck a chord. So it's a musical pun, to mean that it has a connection, but actually physically it would also struck a chord. Musical imagery is used throughout. Perhaps this suggests that the harmonium is still useful, or maybe it's a reminder of how useful it once was. And the harmonium connects generations, so that in the chorister's stalls the father and son used to sing together. It's currently connecting the father and son because they're removing the harmonium, so they're still joined in a joint activity through that harmonium. Uses an interesting simile in the last line of this stanza because it reverses the usual order of the simile. So gilded finch, a finch's type of bird, and gilded as if it's kind of covered in metal or gold. And so you would normally expect it to say like high notes like gilded finches. The fact it reverses the usual order of the simile emphasises the importance of the music, perhaps. And in the last stanza, there's a change from past to present. So it's been describing the memories that he's had of the harmonium, and then it's describing what's happening to the harmonium at the moment, and there's a real change in tone. He's now describing his father, and the father himself is aged. Tobacco-stained fingers remind us of the harmonium's yellow fingernails and the dotted thumbs, suggesting kind of spots of age. Again, the lack of care is still there, and the colloquial phrasing to make it realistic, cart it away. And that implies that nobody really cares about this harmonium anymore, and there's perhaps the suggestion that that's true of the elderly, or there's a worry that that everything ages and dies, and everything is forgettable. The fact that they carry the harmonium flat laid on its back references the way that a coffin is carried, and the phrase being him, separated with commas to make it a subordinate clause, suggests how close they are. So this aside shows that he knows his habits and his personality, and he knows his father really well. And the comment that the father is actually making that seems to really affect the son is bear the freight of his own dead weight. So freight is a very uncaring, business-like way of referring to a body, as is the pun dead weight, which usually means something useless, but in this case it's the physical weight of the dead body. And the internal rhyme draws attention to this dark humour. The father's being very matter-of-fact about it, but the son is feeling really uncomfortable about this, and the separation that's likely to occur after the death. He's unable to answer his father, and he just has shallow or sorry phrase or word, and there's no real response that he has to this. And the repetition of or suggests he's trying to think of a response, but all of them seem inadequate. They're not fit to respond, and in the end he doesn't say anything back to his father's comment. He has this real problem, as many people do, of thinking about the death of his parents and talking about it openly with them.